Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison sat at his desk on Unity Station, watching the endless stream of data flowing across his screens. The coffee in his cup had gone cold hours ago, but he didn't care. Night shift on the Deep Space Monitoring Station was always quiet. Too quiet. The station floated in Earth's orbit, its massive dishes pointed toward the dark spaces between stars. Jake had been listening to the universe for 3 years now, hoping to catch something interesting. So far, all he had found was static and the occasional burst from dying stars. "Jake, you need to see this." The voice belonged to Lisa Carter, his communications officer. She sounded different, excited, maybe even scared. Jake pushed away from his desk and walked over to Lisa's station. She was staring at her screen, her face pale in the blue light. Her hands moved quickly over the controls, adjusting frequencies. "In cleaning up the signal?" "What do you have?" Jake asked. "I'm not sure. It came from the Kepler 442 system, over 1,200 light-years away." Lisa's voice was barely above a whisper. "Jake, it's speaking English." Jake felt his heart skip. A beat. In all his years of monitoring space, he had never heard anything like this. He leaned closer to the screen, watching the signal patterns dance across the display. "Play it," he said. Lisa pressed a button. The speakers crackled with static. Then a voice came through. It was strange, speaking English with an accent Jake had never heard before. The words came slowly, carefully chosen. "Earth people, we are Valari. We learned your language from your signals. We need help. The Zephyrians attack us. They destroy our homes. They take our people. We have nowhere to run." The message paused. Jake could hear breathing on the other end, fast and frightened. "We know you are far. We know you may not care. But we have heard your warrior songs, your stories of fighting. We hope you are strong. We hope you will help us. We'll offer what we can. Rare metals? Knowledge? Please help us. We are dying." The message ended. Speakers fell silent except for the soft hiss of static. Jake stared at the screen. His mind raced through possibilities. A hoax. A test from headquarters. Signal had come from deep space, from a system so far away that light took 1,200 years to reach Earth. "Run it again," he said. Lisa played the message 3 more times. Each time Jake heard the same fear in the alien voice. The same desperate hope. "How long ago was this sent?" Jake asked. Lisa checked her instruments. "The signal is about 47 minutes old, but given the distance, it was transmitted 1,200 years ago." Jake felt cold. If the message was that old, the Valari were probably already dead. But something about the transmission bothered him. The aliens had learned English from human broadcasts. It meant they had been listening to Earth for decades. "Lisa, patch me through to Captain Holland." Captain Steve Holland appeared on Jake's screen a few minutes later. He looked tired, his uniform wrinkled from a long day. "What's so important that it can't wait until morning, Jake?" "Sir, we received a transmission from an alien species. They're asking for help." Holland's expression changed. He sat up straighter in his chair. "Are you certain?" "Yes, sir." "The signal came from Kepler 442. They call themselves the Valari. They're under attack by something called the Zephyrian Empire." Holland was quiet for a long moment. Jake could see him thinking, weighing options. "Send me everything you have. I'll need to contact Fleet Command." "Sir, there's something else. The transmission is 1,200 years old. Even if we wanted to help, how could we get there in time?" "That's not our problem to solve, Morrison. Let the people with the big paychecks figure out the rest." The connection ended. Jake turned back to Lisa, who was still studying the alien message. "What do you think?" he asked. "I think we just changed everything," Lisa said. "First contact with aliens, and they're asking us to fight a war?" Jake nodded. He had been thinking the same thing. For decades, humans had wondered what would happen when they finally met aliens. Would they be friendly? Would they be hostile? Would they even care about humanity? Nobody had imagined this. Aliens who had learned English from human broadcasts, aliens who thought humans were warriors, aliens who were desperate enough to call across 1,200 light-years for help. "Jake, look at this." Lisa pointed to her screen. I've been analyzing the signal. It's not just a message. There's data embedded in it. Star charts, information about their technology, even pictures. Jake watched as Lisa brought up the images. The first showed a world covered in gentle hills and calm seas. There were no mountains, no storms, no sign of the violence that marked Earth's surface. The second image showed buildings that looked like they were grown rather than built, all curves and organic shapes. The third image made Jake's blood run cold. It showed ships in orbit around the peaceful world. They were huge, dark things that looked like they were designed to kill. Energy beams lanced down from the ships to the surface below. The Zephyrians, Lisa whispered. Jake stared at the image. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, aliens were dying. They had called to Earth for help, believing that humans were strong enough to save them. They had no way of knowing that humans had never fought a space war. They had no way of knowing that Earth's weapons were primitive compared to what they faced, but they had heard human music. They had listened to human stories. Somehow they believed that the people of Earth were warriors. Jake wondered if they were right. 2 hours later, Admiral Ben Parker sat in his office at Fleet Command reading the report from Unity Station. The message from the Valari played on his speakers for the 5th time. Each time he heard it, the weight of the situation pressed down on him harder. His aide, Commander Ruth Davis, stood at attention near his desk. "What are your orders, sir?" Looked out his window at Earth. The blue and white planet turned slowly in the darkness, beautiful and fragile. For the first time in human history, aliens had asked for Earth's help. They'd called humans warriors, based on nothing more than old television shows and music. "Schedule an emergency meeting of the Defense Council," Parker said. "We have a decision to make." Fleet Admiral Kate Sullivan walked into the emergency meeting room at exactly 0800 hours. The faces around the table were grim. Every branch of Earth's military was represented, along with scientists and government officials. The alien message had reached the highest levels of command in less than 12 hours. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a situation unlike anything in human history," Sullivan began. She pressed a button on the table, and the Valari message played. Through the room's speakers, even though most of the people present had already heard it, the desperate alien voice still sent chills down their spines. Dr. Amy Rodriguez, Earth's leading expert on alien life, stood up when the message ended. "I've spent the last 6 hours analyzing everything the Valari sent us." She activated the wall display. Images of the Valari homeworld appeared, showing the gentle hills and calm seas Jake had seen earlier. The Valari world has no extreme weather, no earthquakes, no hurricanes. The gravity is 40% lighter than Earth's. The largest predator on their planet is about the size of a house cat. Rodriguez paused. They think Earth is a death world. Colonel Ryan Hayes, head of the Marine Corps, leaned forward. "What do you mean? Look at their data about Earth. They've been listening to our broadcasts for decades. They know about our hurricanes, our earthquakes, our wars. They know we have creatures that can kill us. They think we're the toughest species in the galaxy." The room fell silent. General Patricia Wong, Air Force Chief of Staff, was the first to speak. "Are you saying they called us for help because they think we're natural-born killers? It's not killers. Survivors, warriors, they've heard our music, our movies, our news reports. To them, we're a species that thrives in conditions that would kill most aliens." Dr. Carl Jensen, the military's top physicist, activated his tablet. "I've been studying their technology. It's impressive, but it's designed for their gentle world. Their ships are built for efficiency, not combat. Their weapons are precise, but not powerful. They never had to fight for survival like we did." Admiral Sullivan nodded. "What about the Zephyrians?" "The Valari sent us intelligence about the Zephyrian Empire, but they're physically weak. Lower gravity homeworld, controlled environment, no natural predators, so they're bullies," Hayes said. "They pick on species that can't fight back." "Exactly. They use superior technology to overwhelm weaker species. Energy weapons, force fields, advanced computers. They've probably never faced a species that fights back effectively." Captain Nicole Brooks, who had been silent until now, spoke up. "What kind of timeline are we looking at?" "The message is 1,200 years old." Jensen pulled up a star chart. That's the biggest problem. Even with our fastest ships, it would take 18 months to reach the Kepler 442 system. By the time we got there, the Volari would be long dead. What about the experimental drive? Dr. Elena Foster asked. She was Jensen's assistant. She looked nervous about speaking up in front of so many senior officers. Jensen's eyes lit up. The quantum tunnel drive. It's untested, but theoretically it could cut the travel time to 3 weeks. Theoretically? Sullivan said, "What are the risks?" Unknown. We've only run computer simulations. The drive creates a tunnel through space-time, but we don't know what that does to living tissue over long periods. Hayes stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the sprawling military complex, the ships in orbit, the fighter, squadrons on patrol. So let me get this straight. We have aliens asking for help because they think we're tough. We have the technology to maybe reach them in time. We have an enemy that's never faced anything like us. That's correct, Rodriguez said. Then what are we waiting for? Sullivan looked around the room. The question isn't whether we can do this. The question is whether we should. This would be humanity's first interstellar war. We don't know what we're getting into. General Wong stood up. Admiral, with respect, we've been preparing for this our entire careers. Not this exact situation, but something like it. We've always known that one day we might have to fight for our planet. It's just fighting for someone else's. Planet first, or something else to consider, Rodriguez said. If we help the Volari, word will spread. Other species will learn about us. Some might see us as protectors. Others might see us as a threat. Let them, Hayes said. Maybe it's time the galaxy learned that humans don't back down from a fight. Sullivan called for a vote, a 1-by-1. The military leaders and scientists voiced their opinions. The decision was unanimous. Earth would respond to the Volari distress call. 2 hours later, Captain Brooks stood in the shipyard orbiting Earth. Around her, the largest fleet in human history was taking shape. The flagship would be the EFS Defiance, a massive battle cruiser designed to fight in the vacuum of space. Supporting ships included destroyers, cruisers, and the new fighter carriers that would launch Earth's deadliest pilots into combat. "How long do we have?" asked Commander Tony Rodriguez, who would lead the destroyer squadron. 2 weeks, Brooks said. Admiral Wagner wants the fleet ready to launch in 2 weeks. 2 weeks to prepare for humanity's first interstellar war, Rodriguez said. No pressure. Brooks smiled grimly. Tony, we've been preparing for this our whole lives. We just didn't know it. The device was massive, requiring an entire deck of the Defiance to house it. Foster asked, watching the technicians install the final components. It has to work, Jensen said. The Volari are counting on us. And if we're going to be the galaxy's warriors, we need to start somewhere. Back on Unity Station, Jake Morrison continued monitoring the alien signals. More messages had arrived from the Volari, each one more desperate than the last. The Zephyrians were winning. Cities were falling. Millions of aliens were dying. But there was something else in the message's hope. The Volari still believed that help was coming. In 2 weeks, humanity would find out if they were really the warriors the galaxy needed. The countdown had begun. Admiral Pete Wagner stood on the bridge of the EFS Defiance as the massive ship prepared for launch. Through the viewing ports, he could see the rest of the first expeditionary fleet taking formation. 37 ships in total, carrying the hopes of an entire planet. All ships report ready for departure, Admiral, said Commander Sarah Mitchell, his operations officer. Wagner nodded. Signal the fleet. Jump in 60 seconds. Behind him, Dr. Jensen monitored the quantum tunnel drive. Banks of computers calculated the exact coordinates for their destination. The drive itself hummed with barely contained energy, ready to tear a hole through space-time itself. Drive is stable, Jensen reported. Tunnel formation in 30 seconds. Wagner activated the ship-wide communications. All hands. This is the Admiral. In moments, we will make the longest journey in human history. We go to answer a call for help from beings we have never met, to fight an enemy we have never faced. But we go because it is right. Because when someone calls for help, humans answer. The countdown reached 0. Urans pressed the activation button. Reality twisted around the fleet as the quantum tunnel opened. Space folded in on itself, and the ships disappeared into the darkness between dimensions. The journey through the tunnel was unlike anything the crew had experienced. Outside the ship, colors that had no names swirled in patterns that hurt to look at. Time moved strangely. Clocks ran backward, then forward, then stopped entirely. Captain Alex Thompson, commanding the battlecruiser Vengeance, felt the effects. First, Admiral, my crew is reporting strange experiences. Some are seeing things that haven't happened yet. Same here, reported Captain Jenny White from the destroyer Retribution. My pilot claims he saw himself fighting alien ships. Dr. Helen Ross, the fleet's xenobiologist, studied the readings from her instruments. The tunnel is affecting our neural patterns. We're experiencing temporal displacement. Some crew members are seeing possible futures. Wagner frowned. This was not in the simulations. How long until we reach normal space? 18 days, Jensen said, but time is moving differently in here. It might feel longer or shorter. Lieutenant Danny Clark sat in the cockpit of his fighter, strapped to the launch bay of the carrier Warrior. Around him, other pilots waited in their ships, ready for combat. But the tunnel was affecting them too. I keep seeing this battle, Danny said over the radio. We're fighting ships that look like silver teardrops. They're fast, but they can't handle our maneuvers. I see it too, said Lieutenant Maria Santos from the next fighter. They fight like machines. No creativity. No chaos. In the Marine quarters, Sergeant Maria Gonzalez drilled her troops in zero-gravity combat. The Marines had trained for years. Fighting in space was different from fighting on Earth. They had to learn to use their own momentum as a weapon. Remember, Gonzalez told her squad, "We're stronger than most aliens. We're faster. We're tougher. But most importantly, we're willing to take risks. They won't." Private Kevin Walsh raised his hand. "Sergeant, what if their technology is too advanced?" "Then we get creative," Gonzalez said. "Humans have been winning fights against superior technology for thousands of years. We adapt. We improvise. We overcome." The Bridge of the Defiance. Wagner met with his senior officers. The tunnel journey was taking its toll on the crew, but it was also revealing things about their enemy. "The visions are consistent," Dr. Ross reported. "Multiple crew members are seeing the same battle scenarios. The Zephyrians use energy weapons and force fields. They fight at long range. They prefer overwhelming firepower to tactical flexibility." Major Lisa Baker, commanding the 2nd Marine Battalion, studied the tactical reports. "They sound predictable. That's good for us." "How so?" Wagner asked. "Predictable enemies make mistakes? They follow patterns. Humans don't follow patterns. We change tactics in the middle of battle. We do things that don't make sense to logical minds." Commander Tony Rodriguez, leading the destroyer squadron, agreed. "In the visions I see there, ships forming perfect formations. Beautiful, efficient, and completely vulnerable to a surprise attack." Wagner smiled grimly. "Then we'll give them surprises." The journey continued. Days blended together in the strange space of the tunnel. The crew experienced more visions, each one showing different aspects of the coming battle. They saw Zephyrian, ships with powerful shields but weak hulls. They saw alien commanders who followed rigid tactical doctrines. They also saw the Valari. The peaceful aliens were losing badly. Their gentle nature made them poor fighters. Their technology was designed for building, not destroying. "We're dying by the millions. We have to reach them in time," Wagner said during one of the daily briefings. "These visions might be showing us possible futures. We need to make sure the future we see is victory." Dr. Jensen worked constantly on the drive systems. The tunnel was stable, but it was pushing the limits of human technology. "We're using more power than calculated," he told Wagner. "The drive is working harder than expected." "Will it hold?" "It has to. If the tunnel collapses while we're inside, we'll be scattered across 1,200 light-years of space." Lieutenant Commander Rick Powell, the fleet's chief engineer, monitored every system on every ship. The tunnel was affecting their technology too. Computers ran faster, weapons charged quicker, and shields held stronger patterns. "It's like the tunnel is enhancing our capabilities," Powell reported. "Whatever this space is, It likes human technology. As the journey neared its end, the visions became clearer. The crew could see the Valari homeworld under siege. Massive. Zephyrian ships orbited the planet, their weapons firing down at the surface. The gentle aliens huddled in their organic cities, hoping for salvation. 12 hours until tunnel exit, Jensen announced. All ships should prepare for immediate combat. Wagner activated fleet communications. All captains, this is Admiral Wagner. We're about to enter the most important battle in human history. The Zephyrians think they're fighting another weak species. They're about to learn what happens when you threaten someone under human protection. The tunnel began to collapse around them. Normal space appeared ahead, filled with stars and planets. And there, orbiting the third planet, was the largest enemy fleet humanity had ever faced. "Welcome to Kepler 442, Wagner said. "It's time to show the galaxy what humans can do." The human fleet burst out of the quantum tunnel into normal space like missiles fired from a gun. Admiral Wagner immediately saw what they were facing. 60 Zephyrian ships surrounded the Valari homeworld, their silver hulls gleaming in the system's yellow sun. "My God," whispered Commander Mitchell. "They're huge." The enemy ships were 3 times the size of human vessels, shaped like elegant teardrops with smooth curves and no visible weapons. They moved in perfect formation, maintaining exact distances from each other. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface," reported the communications officer. "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was weak but filled with hope. "Earth ships, this is Valari Defense Council. We cannot believe you came. We thought we would die alone." "Not today," Wagner replied. "This is Admiral Wagner of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. We're here to help." Before the Valari could respond, another transmission cut through the channel. This voice was cold, mechanical, speaking perfect English with no emotion. "Unknown vessels. You are interfering with Zephyrian Imperial operations. Withdraw immediately or face destruction." Wagner looked at his tactical display. The enemy ships were turning toward the human fleet, their movements precise and coordinated. "This is Admiral Wagner of Earth. We're here to protect the Valari." "Leave this system now." "Earth." The Zephyrian voice sounded confused. "We have no record of this species. You pilot crude vessels with primitive technology. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." "Counter offer," Wagner said. "Leave now, and we won't have to embarrass you in front of the whole galaxy." The Zephyrian commander, High Admiral Zethkar, studied the human ships from his flagship. The alien vessels were small, ugly, and appeared to be made from metal plates welded together. Their weapons were basic kinetic projectiles. Their shields were weak energy barriers. "Tactical assessment," Zethkar asked his weapons officer. "Primitive technology, my lord. Their ships appear to be armed with solid projectiles instead of energy. Weapons. Our shields will deflect their attacks easily." "Destroy them," Zethkar ordered. "Make it quick." The Zephyrian fleet opened fire. Brilliant blue energy beams lanced across space toward the human ships. The beams struck the human shields and dissipated harmlessly. Wagner smiled. "Their weapons are exactly what we expected." "All ships, return fire. Show them what human weapons can do." The human fleet fired back, but not with energy weapons. Instead, they launched solid metal projectiles at incredible speed. The Zephyrian shields, designed to deflect energy, were useless against physical matter. The first salvo struck the Zephyrian flagship. The kinetic rounds punched through the shield like it wasn't there, tearing holes in the elegant silver hull. Atmosphere vented into space as the ship shuddered under the impact. "Possible," Zethkar said, staring at the damage reports. "How did their primitive weapons penetrate our shields?" "My lord, they're using solid projectiles. Our shields can't stop physical matter." The human fleet pressed their attack. Captain Thompson's battlecruiser Vengeance fired a full broadside at a Zephyrian cruiser. The enemy ship broke apart under the impact, its pieces spinning away into space. "First kill goes to the Vengeance," Wagner announced over the fleet channel. "Nice shooting, Alex." The Zephyrians tried to adapt, but their rigid tactics worked against them. They maintained perfect formation, even as human weapons tore through their ranks. They fired at long range while the humans closed to point blank distance. Commander Rodriguez led his destroyer squadron in a flanking maneuver. The Zephyrians saw them coming but couldn't react fast enough. Human destroyers were faster and more maneuverable than anything in the enemy fleet. Target their engines, Rodriguez ordered. Disable them. Don't destroy them. We want prisoners. The destroyers struck like wolves, hitting the Zephyrian rearguard and crippling 3 ships before the enemy could respond. The disabled vessels drifted helplessly. Their crews trapped inside. Captain White's destroyer Retribution demonstrated another human advantage. When a Zephyrian ship got too close, White ordered her crew to ram it. The humans reinforced their hull with emergency repairs and struck the enemy vessel head-on. Ramming speed, White shouted, "Brace for impact." The Retribution smashed into the Zephyrian ship, crumpling its elegant hull like paper. The human vessel emerged damaged but intact, while the enemy ship broke apart. "The humans are insane," Zethkar's tactical officer reported. "They're using their own ships as weapons. How is that possible? Impact should have destroyed them both." "Their ships are built differently, my lord. Heavier construction. They're designed to take damage." On the planet's surface, the Valari watched the battle with amazement. Dr. Kethri, the Valari scientist who had sent the original message to Earth, spoke into his communicator. "Impossible. The Deathworlders fight like no species we have ever seen. They use chaos as a weapon." Lieutenant Clark launched his fighter from the carrier Warrior, leading a squadron of human pilots into the battle. The Zephyrians had fighters too, but they flew in perfect formation, following predetermined attack patterns. "Break formation." Clark ordered his pilots. "Go wild. Show them what human pilots can do." The human fighters scattered in all directions, each pilot choosing their own target and attack method. The Zephyrian fighters tried to maintain formation, but couldn't track the chaotic human movements. Clark dove under a Zephyrian fighter and fired a burst from his kinetic cannons. The enemy fighter exploded, its pilot unable to handle the unpredictable human attack. "This is too easy," Lieutenant Santos reported. "They fly like computers. No instinct, no creativity." Major Baker's Marines prepared for boarding actions. When the destroyers disabled enemy ships, the Marines would board them and capture the crew. "Remember," Baker told her troops, "we're probably stronger and faster than they are. Use that advantage." The first boarding party launched from the Defiance, their armored suits carrying them across space to a disabled Zephyrian cruiser. They cut through the hull with plasma torches and entered the enemy ship. Inside, they found corridors filled with clean air and soft lighting. The Zephyrian crew surrendered immediately when they saw the human Marines. The aliens were tall and thin, with large eyes and delicate features. "They're beautiful," Sergeant Gonzalez reported. "Completely helpless. The battle was turning into a rout." The Zephyrian fleet, built for fighting weak opponents, was no match for human weapons and tactics. Their energy weapons couldn't penetrate human shields. While human kinetic weapons tore through Zephyrian defenses, Zethkar watched his fleet being destroyed and made a decision. "Signal retreat? All ships withdraw from the system? My lord, we still outnumber them. Numbers mean nothing if we cannot fight them effectively. We must report this to the Empire. There is a new species in the galaxy, and they are dangerous." Surviving Zephyrian ships fled the system, leaving their disabled vessels behind. The human fleet had won its first interstellar battle in less than 2 hours. "All ships report status," Wagner ordered. The reports came in. Minor damage to several ships. No human casualties. The Zephyrians had lost 23 ships destroyed and 8 captured. "Admiral," came the voice from the planet's surface. "The Valari people thank you. You have saved us from slavery. We will never forget this day." Wagner looked out at the stars. Knowing that news of this battle would spread across the galaxy, humanity had announced its presence in the universe, and the announcement had been made with firepower. "Neither will the galaxy," he said. High Admiral Zethkar arrived at the Zephyrian capital world of Nexus Prime 3 weeks after his defeat at the Valari system. His remaining ships limped into orbit, their hulls scarred and damaged. The Imperial Council was waiting for his report. "Explain." "Your failure," Supreme Commander Vexel demanded. The leader of the Zephyrian Empire stood 12 feet tall, his thin frame draped in ceremonial robes. How did a primitive species defeat our advanced fleet? Zethkar activated the holographic display, showing recordings from the battle. They call themselves humans, my lord. They fight unlike any species we have encountered. The council watched in silence as human ships rammed Zephyrian vessels. As kinetic weapons tore through energy shields, as human fighters scattered in chaotic patterns that defied all tactical logic. Impossible, said War Minister Kethar. No civilized species fights this way. Humans are not civilized by our standards, Zethkar replied. They use chaos as a weapon. They take risks that would be considered insane. Their ships are built to endure damage that would destroy our vessels. Supreme Commander Vextel studied the recordings with growing anger. You lost 23 ships to these primitives. How many ships do they have? 37, my lord. But they fought as if each ship was worth 10 of ours. Then we will send a fleet of 400 ships. Overwhelming numbers will crush them. 2 months later, the largest Zephyrian fleet in a century gathered at the edge of the Valari system. 400 ships arranged in perfect formation, their silver hulls gleaming with deadly purpose. Supreme Commander Vextel commanded the fleet personally from his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. Send a message to the humans, Vextel ordered. Tell them to surrender or face annihilation. Admiral Wagner received the transmission aboard. The Defiance. The human fleet had grown to 45 ships, reinforced by vessels that had made the journey from Earth using conventional drives. This is Supreme Commander Vexel of the Zephyrian Empire, the message began. You have interfered with Imperial operations for the last time. Surrender now, and your deaths will be swift. Wagner looked at his tactical display. 400 enemy ships against 45 human vessels. The odds were overwhelming, but he had spent 2 months studying Zephyrian tactics and weaknesses. A reply, Wagner told his communications officer, and tell them we decline their generous offer. Colonel Simon Baker, Wagner's strategic advisor, pointed to the enemy formation. They're making the same mistakes as before. Perfect spacing, predictable movements. They never learn, good Wagner said. That makes our job easier. The human fleet had prepared for this moment. Commander Powell's engineers had modified their ships with additional armor and new weapon systems. Major Baker's Marines had trained for large-scale boarding operations. Most importantly, Dr. Ross had analyzed the captured Zephyrian technology and found critical weaknesses. Our computer systems are networked, Ross explained during the final briefing. If we can hack into one ship, we can potentially disable their entire fleet. Lieutenant Commander Rick Powell grinned. I've got just the thing for that. The battle began at long range. The Zephyrian fleet fired their energy weapons in perfect synchronized volleys, creating a wall of blue death that should have vaporized the human ships. But Wagner had learned from the first battle. All ships execute Maneuver Chaos 7, Wagner ordered. The human fleet scattered in seemingly random directions. Ships dove under the enemy formation, climbed above it, and weaved between the energy beams. The Zephyrians had calculated firing solutions for logical movement patterns. It's not for the insane maneuvers humans were capable of. Captain Thompson led the first attack wave. His battlecruiser Vengeance charged straight at the enemy flagship, firing kinetic rounds as fast as his guns could cycle. The Zephyrian shields parted like water, and solid metal projectiles hammered the Eternal Dominion. Impossible, Vexthal said as his ship shuddered under the impacts. Deploy the new shields? It's the ones designed to stop solid matter. The Zephyrian ships activated their secondary shields, energy barriers modified to deflect kinetic weapons. For a moment, it seemed to work. Human projectiles bounced off the new shields harmlessly. Then Commander Rodriguez showed why humans were dangerous. All ships switched to explosive rounds. Let's see how their shields handle shrapnel. The human fleet began firing rounds that exploded just before hitting the enemy shields. The shrapnel scattered in all directions, overwhelming the shield generators with thousands of small impacts instead of single large ones. Their shields are overloading, reported Dr. Ross. The generators can't handle that much scattered debris.
Captain?
White demonstrated another human innovation. Her destroyer Retribution launched a spread of missiles that looked like standard kinetic rounds. But these missiles contained boarding pods instead of explosives. The pods punched through the weakened, shields, and attached to Zephyrian holes. Marines cut their way inside, carrying portable computers loaded with human-designed viruses. Sergeant Gonzalez, to Admiral Wagner, came the radio call. "We're inside their computer network, uploading the virus now." Powell's computer virus was a masterpiece of chaos programming. Instead of simply destroying the enemy systems, it made them unreliable. Weapons fired at random targets, navigation systems gave false readings, communications channels played human music instead of tactical reports. "What is happening to our fleet?" Bextel demanded, as his ships began firing on each other. "The humans have infected our computer networks," his tactical officer reported. "Our ships are no longer under our control." Lieutenant Clark led his fighter squadron in a bombing run against the enemy flagship. But instead of explosives, his fighters dropped small devices that attached to the ship's hull and began broadcasting human radio signals. "This is Earth Music Station Rock -101, the broadcasts began, playing the greatest hits from humanity's greatest warriors. Heavy metal music blasted through the Zephyrian communication channels, drowning out tactical orders. The aliens, accustomed to silence and order, found the chaotic sounds physically painful. Major Baker's Marines conducted boarding operations on a scale never before attempted. Teams of armored humans swept through Zephyrian ships, their superior strength and speed, overwhelming the delicate aliens. "Target secured," Baker reported after capturing her fifth enemy vessel. "These aliens give up as soon as they see us. No fight in them at all." The battle became a rout even faster than the first one. The Zephyrian fleet, crippled by computer, viruses, and psychological warfare, could not coordinate their attacks. Ships collided with each other as their navigation systems failed. Weapons fired randomly into empty space. Vextel watched his grand fleet fall apart around him. "How is this possible? You have superior numbers, superior technology, superior firepower, but not superior warriors," his aide whispered. The Supreme Commander made a desperate decision. "Signal the retreat. All ships that can still navigate, withdraw immediately." "My lord, we still have 300 operational ships." "Operational, but not controllable. The humans have turned our own technology against us. If we stay, they will capture the entire fleet." The surviving Zephyrian ships fled the system in complete disorder. Some ships fired on their own fleet mates. As they retreated, their computer systems still infected with human viruses. Admiral Wagner watched the enemy retreat with satisfaction. "All ships report casualties." The reports came in. Minimal damage to the human fleet. No ships lost. Only 17 personnel wounded. The Zephyrians had lost over 100 ships destroyed or captured. Admiral, came a transmission from the planet's surface. "This is Dr. Kethri of the Valari. We've monitored the entire battle." "How did you defeat such overwhelming numbers?" Wagner smiled. "We fought like humans. Chaos, creativity, and a complete disregard for what's supposed to be impossible." As the human fleet secured the captured Zephyrian vessels, news of the battle spread across the galaxy at light speed. A second crushing defeat for the mighty Zephyrian Empire. A species called humans had emerged from nowhere and proven themselves the most dangerous warriors the galaxy had ever seen. On distant worlds, alien leaders watched the recordings and began making plans. Some planned alliances with these fearsome Deathworlders. Others planned preemptive strikes before the humans could threaten them. But all of them understood one thing: the galaxy had changed forever. The age of human expansion had begun. 6 months after the second battle at the Valari system, Fleet Admiral Kate Sullivan stood before the United Earth Council in Geneva. The room was packed with representatives from every nation on Earth, their faces reflecting a mixture of pride and concern. "The galaxy knows about us now," Sullivan began. "Our victories against the Zephyrian Empire have made humanity famous across thousands of star systems. But fame brings both opportunities and dangers." She activated the holographic display, showing a map of known space. Red dots marked hostile civilizations, blue dots showed friendly species, and yellow indicated neutral powers. "In the past 6 months, we have received 47 requests for military assistance. Species under attack by pirates, slavers, and conquerors, All want the Deathworlders to save them. President Emma Scott leaned forward. What's our current response capability? We now have 12 expeditionary fleets in operation, with more ships launching every week. Earth shipyards are working at maximum capacity, but we're still vastly outnumbered by the hostile civilizations out there. Admiral Wagner appeared on the main screen, broadcasting from the Volari system, where he commanded the new Terran forward base. Madame President, the situation is more complex than simple military numbers. The galaxy is reshaping itself around us. He brought up intelligence reports gathered by human reconnaissance teams. 3 major changes are happening. First, our enemies are forming alliances against us. The Zephyrian Empire is rebuilding their fleet with help from other hostile species. They're sharing anti-human tactics and developing new weapons specifically designed to counter our advantages. Secretary of Defense Charles Brooks frowned. What kind of weapons? Kinetic shields that can stop solid projectiles. Isolated computer. Systems that can't be hacked. Communications that use quantum encryption. They're learning from their defeats. Second, Wagner continued, our allies are becoming dependent on us. The Volari won't make any major decisions without consulting Earth first. 3 other species have asked to become human protectorates. See us as their guardians against all threats. And third, neutral species are being forced to choose sides. Stay neutral and risk attack from our enemies, or ally with us. And 8, become targets. There's no middle ground anymore. Captain Morrison, now commanding the exploration vessel Pioneer, added his report. We've made contact with 19 new species in the past 6 months. 12 immediately asked for protection. 4 declared us a threat and broke off contact. 3 are still deciding. Dr. Rodriguez, back on Earth after studying alien biology. For months, provided the scientific perspective. We're causing an evolutionary pressure on galactic civilization. Species are either adapting to fight us or adapting to work with us. The old balance of power is completely gone. President Scott stood up and walked to the window overlooking Lake Geneva. So we're accidentally conquering the galaxy just by trying to help. Not conquering, Sullivan corrected. But we're definitely changing it. Question is whether we guide that change or let it happen randomly. The debate continued for hours. Some council members wanted Earth to withdraw from galactic affairs. To avoid the growing conflicts, others argued that humanity had a responsibility to protect the weak species that depended on them. General Wong presented the military perspective. Withdrawal isn't an option anymore. Our enemies won't forget what we've done to them. If we pull back, they'll come for Earth eventually. Then what do you recommend? Scott asked. Sullivan activated a new display showing the proposed Terran defense network. We establish permanent bases and key systems. We train allied species to defend themselves. We build a coalition strong enough to deter our enemies without having to fight constant wars. Captain Brooks, now promoted to Admiral and commanding the 2nd Expeditionary Fleet, called in from the Kepler 186 system. It's working here, Madam President. We've been training the Altarian Defense Force for 3 months. They're not natural fighters, but they're learning. Yesterday, they successfully repelled a pirate attack without human assistance. The Council voted to approve the defense network plan. Earth would become the center of a galactic alliance, providing military training and protection in exchange for resources and strategic positions. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, the consequences of humanity's emergence continued to unfold. On the Zephyrian capital world, Supreme Commander Vextel met with representatives from 5 other hostile civilizations. The humans must be stopped before they grow stronger, Vextel declared. They have shown that brute force alone cannot defeat them. We need a new approach. The Vrex ambassador, representing a species of insectoid warriors, clicked his mandibles in agreement. Our intelligence suggests the humans have a weakness. They care about their allies. Perhaps we should target those allies instead of the humans directly. Explain. Attack their protectorates. Force the humans to spread their forces thin, defending multiple systems. Eventually, they will make mistakes. The plan began to take shape. Instead of massive fleet battles, the Alliance would wage a campaign of terror against human-protected worlds. Hit-and-run attacks designed to make human protection seem worthless, but they underestimated human adaptability once again. Lieutenant Colonel Danny Clark, now commanding the Rapid Response Wing, detected the first attacks. Admiral Wagner, we're seeing coordinated strikes against 4 different systems, small fleets, hitting civilian targets, then retreating before we can respond. Wagner studied the attack patterns. They're trying to make us look weak. Show our allies that we can't protect them everywhere at once. How do we respond? We changed the rules again. Within 2 weeks, Wagner's strategy was in place. Instead of chasing enemy raiders, human forces would strike at their bases. Every attack on a human protectorate would result in retaliation against. The attacker's home system's Major Baker, now commanding the elite strike force, led the first retaliatory mission. Her Marines captured a Rex military base and left a simple message: attack our friends, and we will visit you at home. Impact was devastating. The hostile alliance had expected the humans to play defense. Instead, they found their own worlds under attack by forces that seemed to appear from nowhere. Captain White, commanding the stealth destroyer Shadow, perfected the art of invisible warfare. Her ship could penetrate enemy space undetected and strike targets deep behind their lines. The beauty of human warfare, White explained to her crew, is that we don't follow anyone else's rules. They think war has limits. We think war is about winning. The enemy alliance began to fracture. Species that had joined to fight humans found their own worlds burning instead. The cost of opposing humanity was becoming too high. A year after the first Volari distress call, President Scott addressed the world from the new Galactic Relations Center in New York. Behind her, holographic displays showed human ships patrolling dozens of star systems. Fellow citizens of Earth, she began, we stand at a crossroads in human history. We answered a call for help from strangers and discovered our place in the galaxy. We are not conquerors, but we are protectors. We are not the strongest species, but we are the most determined. She paused, looking directly into the camera. The galaxy has learned that humans do not abandon their friends. We do not retreat from bullies. We do not surrender to impossible odds. We're Deathworlders, and we will fight for what is right. In the Volari system, Dr. Kethri watched the broadcast with tears in his large alien eyes. They saved us, he whispered to his aide, and in doing so they saved everyone. The age of human expansion had begun, but it was not an age of conquest. It was an age of protection, a species learning to stand together against those who would enslave them. Humanity had found its purpose among the stars. They were the galaxy's guardians. It's the ones who answered when the weak called for help, and the universe would never be the same.